listen to my heart, I can hear you whisper, asking me lovingly to come and follow you. Here I am.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Father Adam McDonald. I'm a priest of the Society of the Divine Word, co-host for this monthly program, Dare to Love, together with my wonderful co-host here.
Good morning. This is Sister Lovina Pammit. I'm a Franciscan sister of the Sacred Heart, and I have the pleasure and privilege to be a co-host to Father Adam.
Thank you, Sister Lovina, and good morning to everyone. We want to wish you a happy, blessed New Year.
Happy
now that
New Year.
We are in January 2025. Can you believe it? It seems like yesterday it was Y2K, the change of the millennium, and here we are a full quarter way into this the 2000s. And so we welcome you once again as we begin this new year. We continue to believe and act on the belief that God continues to call women and men to holiness, and people are responding to that call in many ways. And so we want to continue throughout this year promoting vocations, vocation awareness and discernment, and to do that through this program, Dare to Love. And so we're so grateful for all of your support and interest in this program. This morning, we're very privileged to have with us Sister Sharon Dillon, who is a sister of St. Francis of the Third Order of St. Joseph. I have that correct? And so, okay. And so there she is. And so we welcome you, Sister Sharon. We're glad to have you with us. And perhaps you could say a few words, correct me first of all, in the name of your congregation, and tell us a little bit more about yourself. Sister Sharon, welcome.
Thank you for welcoming me, and Happy New Year and continued Merry Christmas, because my community is very faithful about keeping Christmas until the present feast of the presentation. So it's our good Polish tradition background. And my congregation's name is the Sisters of St. Joseph of the Third Order of St. Francis. And we use all of those initials, SSJ-TOSF.
Great.
We've been around for 125 years, so we're still around.
Wonderful. And forgive me for having it backwards. Joseph and Francis, they're both such wonderful saints, and you have two saints who are patrons of your congregation. How wonderful. Could you tell us a little bit about sort of the mission of your congregation? You said you've been around for about 125 years. What was the initial thrust, and what need were you created to serve?
Sure. When my congregation began, our full mission was to the immigrants that were Polish. And actually until 1965, in order to even join my congregation, you had to show Polish lineage. You had to speak the language, and you had to know the language. And so we taught in that language, and we prayed in that language. And so that was the initial mission, because there was a great influx of Polish people into the Midwest, and there was a great need. And so there was a bishop who asked sisters who were joining the School Sisters of St. Francis in Milwaukee to take them, the Polish sisters, and then there was a separation that occurred in 1901. And so that during that time, my congregation became educators mostly, and then also moved into TB care. So that was our initial beginning. So then eventually down the line, we ended up also into hospital ministry.
Wonderful. Now, this is interesting because Sister Sharon, I think you and Sister Lovina and I have known each other for some time, but I did not know until today that you had any Polish language knowledge or background. Can you say Happy New Year in Polish, for instance?
I don't know it. I can say dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry, dziękuję.
Good morning.
Good morning. Wonderful.
And I know there's a Polish connection with your congregation, correct?
Indeed, yes. And here in northwest suburban Wheeling, Illinois, we serve the Polish community at St. Joseph, the worker parish. So we do have that connection, and many Polish confreres, priests and brothers serving around the world. So, yeah.
Which is why we have both St. Joseph and St. Francis, because our sisters were asked to leave the Milwaukee Franciscans, and they wanted to keep the rule of life, but they wanted the devotion of the founding to be under St. Joseph. So that's why we have both saints, and why we will probably never go to just OFF.
Wonderful.
Right.
And the amazing thing about religious life is how it evolves to serve the needs that are emerging today. You talked about the needs that existed for which you were first founded, and now today we see you coming to us from a classroom. And so the need of being an educator and a teacher. Would you like to share with us what you're up to in your current ministry or ministries, Sister Sharon?
Sure, I've had a lot of different hats, but for the last 6 years, I have been here at a public school in mostly Mexican-American population, 98% Mexican-American, Heritage Middle School located in Berwyn, Illinois. And I am the special ed math and science teacher. And I started right when COVID was hitting and did the remote teaching of special ed. And I started with 8 students, and now I'm up to 26. So
Wow.
it's quite a challenge.
Wow. God bless you. And thank you so much. And please thank your principal for us for letting you infringe on your planning period. Thank you so much.
It's all right. It's the week. This week, there's not much planning. It's already set. We've just finished state testing, so the kids are like ready to just have a little bit less to do.
Mm-hmm. Sister Sharon, thank you. I echo Sister Lovina's words of gratitude for your being with us today. And I'm sitting here thinking how interesting that you belong to a religious community, as does Sister Lovina and myself. And so the sense of feeling called, all of us, to an intentional way of sharing our lives together for God, for God's people, for one another, communities of mutual support, encouragement, invitation, challenging each other to greatness and to virtue, to live our best lives and our best selves. And yet there are many people in the world whose discernment may lead them to look for that form of community, but not necessarily as a religious priest, sister, or brother. And you are part of a community which we would call an intentional community in Hyde Park called the Fireplace community. We'd love to hear more about this, but it's just kind of broadening the idea of community. We know that by design, we are created by God for connection, for community. That's what our hearts most deeply desire. We're not called to live in isolation. We say no man, no woman is an island, that kind of thing. But there are many young men and women today who are seeking a place of belonging, a place where they can be themselves, be known and know others. And we'd love to hear more about the Fireplace community and what exactly does this mean to say it's an intentional community of people who are seeking their path in life?
Well, thank you for that question. The Fireplace community was founded in 2021 and became an independent organization. We were started with the efforts of our religious congregation. The Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration were our initial financial supporters, which we were very grateful to them for helping us get this started. And in past year, 2024, we actually became a separate Illinois not-for-profit. And the mission of the intentional community is that we're located on the south side of Chicago in one of the houses your community owns. And it's supposed to be inclusive community, women-centered, LGBTQIA affirming. But the mission is to really bring people together who have a passion for Catholicism in a different way. Like, we're open to anyone of any faith. And I'm trying to find the exact mission statement. Sorry, I need a minute. I thought it was right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know recently, just I think a few weeks ago, I was a guest for, I didn't realize how time flies. After 2 years of offering a class in basketry, basket weaving, yes, that was, I think, after like late summer, I offered a class, and that was really fun. And then, so it's been 2 years since I got back, and that was a few weeks ago. And the Fireplace community had a community dinner, and I had not been able to attend that. It was really wonderful to have, I think the table just kept on expanding. It was amazing. The hearth at the center is where we prayed together, and that was another experience of being community, of being neighbor. because I live more up north, and so coming to that neighborhood, and even in the dark of night, it was like, with the lights and then the hearth at the center, you pray together with a community that is very welcoming. That was a great feeling. So, yes.
And meals are an important part of our invitation. We have open meals every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. and then we follow with prayer. And sometimes the prayer just happens right around the table, as you said, Lovina. We keep getting the doorbell keeps ringing throughout the meal because people can come at any and all different times, and we have people who are regulars, and we call them, or they actually chose to call themselves extended community members. They don't live in the house with us, but they really want to be a part of the community. And as you, Father Adam, spoke to, there is a deep longing and hunger with especially young adults right now. There's a crisis of loneliness, I would say, would be the crisis. And they're looking for support. And we claim that we are rooted in our Catholic identity, but we're also looking for people who are creative so that they have a safe space to be their creative self, and that they can also have a heart for justice is the best way I would say it. Like those two groups tend to overlap one another. For instance, this past summer, with the DNC and the RNC, there was a group my community connected with me, and they are called the Poor People's Army, and they used the Fireplace as their home base between those two conventions, because they walked from the RNC in Milwaukee to the DNC in Chicago. And so they used our house as their like landing place. If people needed to take a break, if they needed some food, if they needed whatever those needs might be, they were welcome to just come and hang if they needed to. So it was a wonderful experience for us as a house. The house has actually 10 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and currently 3 residents, but we have 2 applicants in January that we're hoping will join us. And so we have space for other people to join us, and we're hoping that people would be interested in coming and finding out about the Fireplace, being a part of this wonderful experience of being intentional. And I say behind that is the sense of caring for one another, learning how to live with each other intergenerationally, and interfaith. Like we just also had a Tibetan monk staying with us, which was like really exciting. I had no knowledge of Tibetan monk Buddhism. I had read or seen on television, and you could just feel the sacredness coming from his whole being, and I felt like he just blessed our house. It was so beautiful to have him there. And he is working with a scholar at the University of Chicago, so we're very close to the university, walking distance.
It's interesting to think of the history of this house. As you mentioned, Sister Sharon, it happens to be owned by my religious congregation, the Society of the Divine Word. And as I recall, being a young seminarian in formation, well, we're talking about 25 years ago now. You can calculate my age if you wish. But we purchased that house, as I recall, as sort of an annex, as a way to in a manner of speaking, to our formation house. At that time, 25 years ago, every room in our formation house was occupied, and we needed more space. And then after a number of years, as we know, there are cycles of numbers that go a little bit up and a little bit down. And we determined we didn't need that space full time, but we wanted to hold on to that house for other purposes and to offer it to those who might be in need of a space. And so to know that it then came by and by to evolve into a place where community gathers. It may look a little bit different than the first community that lived there, and I don't know the prior history of a family that might have lived there, but it is certainly a wonderful continuity, I would say. And then to your point.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. I was just going to say your point is so well taken, that there is such a thirst and a longing among people for real connection. I mean, we know that we are so much connected now through social media. We can connect with people all around the world, but in terms of these real, live, face-to-face conversations, I come across a lot of young people who kind of stumble through even knowing how to start or have a conversation because they're so used to kind of chat, speak, and text talk and that kind of thing. And so you really are, focusing in on a very, very prominent need in our society today.
It really is. And I learned so much. I'm the elder in all my community life. I've always been the youngster. So it's kind of interesting to be on the other side of the spectrum. And I've learned so much from these young adults, you know. And I also, of course, I can bring it into my classroom, which is great because it keeps me updated on all the new trends and what people are looking into and what they shouldn't be looking into. And ask in all sincerity, like my value and my perception of different things, especially about the church. You know, how do I see the church and how it has evolved and where it has changed to, and how does that look in light of my own vocation? So one of the beautiful things I think that your community also had it set up, but then we had to have it reaffirmed, is we have this lovely chapel that is in the downstairs. I call it the first floor. Everyone calls it the basement. I guess I look at that there's 4 floors in the house. It's a big old mansion. And Bishop Perry came, and he looked at and blessed it. And the key thing for me is my congregation closed our mother house in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and it was all at the same time that we were setting up the Fireplace. And so they just sent us everything that we needed for a chapel. So we have everything in the chapel is from my community's mother house. And the most beautiful thing is they sent us one of the original tabernacles from 1900. And so it sits prominently in that chapel, which is so beautiful. And since we have the FSPAs with us, we also have the Eucharist that's always being displayed. Or not, revered would be a more correct word.
You have a relic there too, right, Sister Sharon? You have a relic. You have a relic, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to get to that. So when our sister sent all these things, one of the young women in our house who is culturally Catholic, because she's Mexican American, she's unpacking the dishes, and she comes in with this cross, and she says, "Do you know what this is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a relic of St. Francis of Assisi." And then a few minutes later, she comes in and she has the actual document from Rome.
Wow.
Giving authenticity to the relic.
Yes.
And the cool thing was when Bishop Perry came, he read it. I know enough Latin to have made some of it out, but I couldn't tell whether it was from the body or whether it was from his clothing. And he knew the entire story, and that it was a chip of the bone of St. Francis, because during that time they were transferring Francis's body from one place to another, and so and they offered relics to congregations, and that's how my congregation came up with the relic. So it is in a very prominent place because Bishop Barry said, "You need to display this."
Yes. It's amazing. So you can make a pilgrimage to the Fireplace community just for that. And your amazing chapel. I would call it the cave, because the cave is very much associated with Francis. People don't normally know this, you know, the Francis of the Gardens, but there's also the Francis of the Cave. Towards the end of St. Francis of Assisi's life, he really became more and more of a recluse. He really was starting to become more and more like Christ, like Jesus, that he followed in his footsteps. So I just feel like when you're in that area, then it's like Francis coming into that area of quiet and much closer to his God.
So we had some neighbors move in. The empty house that had been to our right, if you're looking at our house, has been empty for quite a while. And 2 doctors moved in, and they're from the Philippines, and they are so sweet, and they've been over to see the chapel. And I agree, it is very sacred. There's a sacredness. Everyone who comes to our houses, there's such a peace and a calm and a sacredness in this house. And I think it's built on the history that has been is what the house has been about, correct? I'm so sorry. And
yeah, for
the
sure.
downside of being in a school, right? Announcement. But anyways, the beauty, so they told us they actually turn and pray toward our house every night, which is just so beautiful. So it brings in the whole community, because we've gotten to know all of the neighbors, and the neighbors on the other side are Irish descent, and they're actually from Ireland, and they claim to be atheists, but they're always coming over and enjoying our activities and being with us. And so there's something, I think, also healing in their Catholicism by being with us, that they enjoy coming over, especially in the summertime when we have nightly fires, like on Friday nights. We have usually a typical gathering to come, anyone who wants to come in the neighborhood. And sometimes we'll have music groups coming, and sometimes we have people who come and do their presentation of their readings from their poetry. And then we'll always have like an open mic night that anyone can come and share whatever they'd like to bring. Nice. It's songs, and part of it is Abby, who's in our house, has taught me about zines. So I had no idea what a zine was. And she asks us to contribute to the zine regularly. There's stories about things that have happened at the Fireplace. And then at these Friday night events, that one of us gets up and reads one of the stories from the zine of something that may have occurred during our time together.
Amazing.
But during Christmas, we had the Wassailers. So this is their second year coming to us, and they're an amazing group. They are out of the Old English descent of wassailing, and they came from, they're a group run by the pastoral department in the University of Chicago, and their leader is a Jewish woman who's Miriam. She's just amazing, and she brings all these wassailers over, and they do these ancient Celtic dances for us, and these ancient music pieces, and they always ask us if there's something we'd like blessed. And this past December, we asked them to bless our community, for the Spirit to lead the right people to join us. So, leases end. People ended their leases in June, and we've been working really hard to get the right people to join us.
That's great.
Praise God.
So people can come in like for a retreat, like even a weekend or overnight, just a place of retreat for writers, artists, anyone who's a creative, right?
Anyone who's a creative, and we've been actually having pastoral groups, like from a church, like St. Benedict the African. Their pastoral team comes and has their annual retreat with us.
Wow.
And then we've been asked, and they've come twice, by the Catholic workers. They've had their teams come and had their retreat in our house. And what's nice is the house is open. Like, we can't do the hosting, that's beyond our capacity, but we know these groups, and we know that they're going to take care of anything in the house. So we just kind of become the contact person, and then the house is up to them, and in whatever way they want to use it. The only thing off limits is, of course, is our bedroom.
Right. This is amazing because I'm looking at your background, Sister Sharon, and Sister Lovina might remember last month in December we had our episode where we were talking about Advent, preparing for Christmas, and we said don't get rid of your Christmas trees too soon, because Christmas is a season, as we've acknowledged. We have the octave of Christmas and the season of Christmas leading up to the baptism of the Lord. So to see the Christmas tree over your left shoulder, but over your right shoulder, if anyone's paying close attention, is a sign that says, if I'm reading it correctly, today is a great day to learn something new, if I'm reading that correctly. And certainly today we are learning something new from what you're sharing with us about the need for people to have places to come together in community, and the fact that there are places like the Fireplace where people can do just that. So I'd be interested in knowing, you talked about having 3 residents at the moment. What would be, say, the criteria for someone who is seeking to be more of a resident in the community? Would there need to be, I presume, certain parameters around who could make their home there on a more permanent basis?
Absolutely. We have said at this point we'll also open it up to short-term, like students who might be looking for some. But that's a different way of being in community with us. We're actually looking for people who are committed to building community. And that may sound like, what does that mean, right? It means that you're willing to put the energy into house meetings, governance, where we became, like I said, Illinois not-for-profit, so we're still in the process. We have bylaws, and we want to become our own 501c3 eventually. But we also joined NASCO, which is the North American students of cooperation for co-ops, basically. And Abby went to the NASCO conference to learn more. And there are a lot of co-ops in the area, and we're unique in the sense that we say that we have a spirituality basis. So we're looking for people I would say, who are hungry to grow in their own spiritual selves, and it doesn't matter what that spirituality is. We did have someone come recently who was a Wiccan, and I was a little nervous about her, and then she chose not to come. But I always think the Spirit is working in mysterious ways, right? But co-ops are egalitarian and sharing of power. So we're looking for people who want to come and have to like fully invest themselves, but realizing that we all work in full-time ministries. So we have ministries, we have various schedules. We have to negotiate those schedules, but we also have some things that you commit to, like our Tuesdays and Thursday meals, our Sunday house meetings, and then one Sunday a month is our board meeting, and that it's a commitment to invite others, to be present to others, like to not just like, oh, someone's here and I'm bowing out. It's not that at times you can't do that, but it's a commitment of presence is my belief.
Is there a sort of a standard commitment of time? Generally speaking, do people commit to being there for, say, 6 months or a year? Or has the experience varied? Have people stayed for multiple years based on what they're seeking and where they're at on their journey?
Currently, the three of us have been there for 3 years, and we do ask for at least a year's commitment, but we can also say that if you want to do a 6 month, like as a trial basis, and then see if you want to go longer, that would work out for us too. All of that is on our website. We have a very active website that you can find all the information at the fireplacecommunity.org, and everything is there. And we're open to men, to women, to families. We have, I don't know if you remember the house at all. It's the upstairs. There are three huge, well, actually 4 bedrooms on the very top floor, and 2 of them, Father Adam, are huge. I mean, they're almost half the size of my classroom, and a family could very easily be in that situation. Now, I have to say, I am embarrassed that I teach in a Mexican-American school and do not know Spanish, but both Abby and Leslie, who are the other 2 who are permanent residents right now, they both are fluent in Spanish. So we'd also welcome people who have another language.
Well, your language is math.
Yes, it is.
And Polish, apparently.
Math and science.
Math and science.
I always learn something about science when they're around me. But we've also gotten to know the Bauer House, which is a part of the Kumba Co-op, which is a group of the co-ops who exist in Hyde Park. So we just keep getting more and more people knowing about us. But since we're still kind of new, and we need some community members so that we can keep this alive, right? The dream was that the fireplace would outlive us, and that's what our hope is. That there's such a tremendous sense of spirituality, art, and community, and the vision of the heart for the justice, that it would just draw people in and keep us going.
So there's many different ways of being involved or part of the Fireplace community, even just as a guest for a dinner or for an event, or to just be on your mailing list, so at least you know what's going on, right? Absolutely. One of the gentleman who was the sponsor for the Tibetan monk, he was the one who reached out to us. He's doing his studies at University of Chicago, and when he heard about us, he just lit up. He said, "Oh my gosh, I'm looking for office space, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for a place for other people to stay." Like, he got very excited. He said, "I can't believe that you've been here for 3 years and I never heard about you." So we also now have that new contact who's looking for other ways to expand how we can be for the community at large. Right.
It's so powerful to think of how our Catholic faith plays into all of this, as you talked about people coming with different spiritualities. I think that's one thing we don't really give ourselves a lot of credit for, but maybe a little affirmation to how, as Catholics, we really think very universally, very globally, And we tend to be pretty good at times, I think. We can always improve, but I think we're able to create spaces where we can bring together Tibetan monks, people who maybe were culturally Catholic or former Catholics or not sure which path they identify with. And we're not intimidated by welcoming people into that space and welcoming that conversation. I know I experience in my own religious congregation serving around the world that we're often serving in places where Christians are not the majority. And people are really shocked that we're serving our Muslim sisters and brothers just as much as our Hindu sisters and brothers, as we may our Jewish sisters and brothers, basically based on our belief that we are all children of one God and we have this shared humanity. And so it's kind of beautiful for me personally to know that this house, which was initially an intentional community of men in formation for my congregation, is now creating today spaces where more people, men and women, younger, older, of different faith traditions, can gather and feel that sense of community and acceptance. So thank you so much for what you've shared with us today. And I get the sense, as you've said, that this has also been impactful and affirming of your own vocation in religious life, which is an added bonus, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've been around for 38 years doing that. So I hope I have a little bit to contribute. I just want to say it's been a very powerful, challenging, energy-inducing and energy-draining experience, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I mean, I really love the women I live with and all the women who have come through. And it's just, if someone has not experienced intentional community, and I think that's always been the goal of religious life, right? To have some intentional sense of community where you're connecting on a spiritual level. It's just like having the Wasselers there just renewed my heart in a way that I cannot explain. And it's those kind of, and then also having Kandral there from Tibet, and it just adds to your life, right? You learn something new every day.
Absolutely.
And so I keep learning. I think you have to just, and that would be, I would say, one of the qualities we're looking for is someone who's open, someone who's willing to learn. You don't have to be an extrovert. Right now, the three of us there, none of us are extroverts. I extrovert all day teaching, and I go home and I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone.
Oh, no wonder you were inviting me to your house. You need an extrovert in there.
I keep inviting you for that reason, Lovina. I'm like, oh my gosh, but we do have two extended community members who are extreme extroverts, and we're really happy when they come to the meals.
Praise God.
They just keep it going.
Indeed. Well, Sister Sharon, as we begin to bring things to a close, we kind of focus on this word intentionality, you know, being people of intent. There's a sense of conscious, deliberate commitment of the will to a relationship, to a project, to a community of people. It's not just by happenstance that we happen to be there with these individuals, right? We're committing to that intentionally. And as we begin to see this new year 2025 unfold, we know that a lot of people will be committing some intentionality to their New Year's resolutions. Maybe something they want to change, something they want to stop doing, start doing. I don't know if that's something that's big at the Fireplace community, but I can tell you what my resolution is. Believe it or not, Sister Lovina, Sister Sharon, this may strike you as odd, but I'm actually hoping to fulfill the resolution to actually take a day off on Saturdays in the new year. I have two positions, of course, as director of our formation house and also as part-time vocation director and assorted and sundry other commitments we know. But I haven't had a consistent day off. And I'm thinking, I'm living with these young men in formation. What am I modeling for them if I'm not modeling that sense of stepping back, taking a Sabbath day and self-care? And so having kind of been in these two positions for a year now, I kind of have a sense of what needs to happen and when. So I'm committing to doing some more self-care and taking some time off on Saturdays. How about you, Sister Lovina?
Oh, shucks. I thought you were going to say you were going to take a day off to cook some more of your pumpkin tres leches, or maybe not pumpkin. I don't know, something different with the tres leches cake.
We'll do it.
I should have
sure.
brought Father Adam cooked Michael May behind the window here and the sound room, and Father Adam. Well, last month you were boasting about your pumpkin tres leches. I thought you were gonna bake or commit to baking some more, but that's okay.
I can do that on my days off.
However, I know how to fill that day because I was gonna, well, actually, Sister Sharon and I are painter partners, and we were going to have the resolution of making an art date. Nice. So yeah, hopefully this year we will have either a weekend here, a Saturday there, somewhere where we can paint together. So you're always welcome.
Thank you. I'll bring the cake.
I used to have a day, a week, an evening and a week that I would deliberately sit aside an hour and just do painting. And I would like to get back to that as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to add one little point about Francis, and one of my mindsets about intentional community. The words he always used is the world is our cloister. You know, so if we can walk in the world and say intentionally, this is the group of people I want to be in relationship with, because I think that's why Francis also transcends so many faiths, right? It's his stories, it's his life. And I think that sense of how we live in the present moment and be present to one another. And I think that's what's behind intentionality.
Yeah. And you know, one thing that, thank you for reminding me about the universality, which Catholic really means universal. So the universality of Francis, I keep forgetting that before the Reformation, there were Franciscans, because he was from the 13th century. And in a way, the schism came in the 16th century, I believe, if my history is right. And there are Franciscans that are not Catholic. I've forgotten that. Until you meet one, you forget that Francis is so much bigger than where we have kind of put him in a box. And so, and then even the dialoguing, the world is a cloister, and even the sustainability and care of the planet, you know, like with Pope Francis, which is very deliberate in his choosing his name, and him being a Jesuit, which is very much in service of the church. The combination of that really makes it so much more people, like the fireplace, gathering at the hearth, kind of unifying that into this universal truths and values, right?
And there's something about gathering at a hearth where there is warmth and fire. I mean, you don't even have to say words, right? You can just sit there, and there's something about that beauty. And also in that beauty, there's a destruction. So what are you going to choose? You know, like I always love Duns Scotus's words that say, if people don't know who Duns Scotus is, he's a Franciscan scholar that says, justice restores to beauty that which has been destroyed. And so a flame, a fire can do both, right? It has a beauty, and it's also a fire in a house or in any other place if it's not contained. Can be very destructive in a forest, as we know, et cetera, et cetera. But you can also contain it and look at it and see all the beauty that comes out of that. And it makes me, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell one more story about St. Francis, right? And Francis and Claire having the big conversation in the woods.
Yes.
And the townspeople running down with water thinking there was a fire. And it was just the exchange between Francis and Claire having this deeply spiritual conversation. And I love that story, because to me, that's kind of like the fireplace, right?
Yes.
You just get into these. You were there at the meals. We have these great, deep conversations. Like when Kendro was there, the Tibetan monk, we had such a deep spiritual conversation with an interpreter, because his language is limited. Ours, I didn't know any Tibetan. And it was such a deep spiritual conversation about learning the center of what it is to be a Tibetan monk, and it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful exchange, and him asking us about the rosary, and him leaving us each a set of prayer beads from their culture. It was just very amazing, you know. And that's what people miss if they don't enter into an intentional act of community with the other people.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sister Sharon, for carving out this time for us to have you. And I actually forgot that, how many years ago has it been? 2 years maybe? That you have been a guest with us. But this is a new year. This is a new time, and we always learn something new.
Yes.
Indeed, a great day to learn something new. In 2025, we pray will be a great year for all of us to continue learning new things, being open to the invitations God is offering us, and to seek out opportunities, as you have shared with us this morning, whether it's at the fireplace or in the places we live and move and serve, that we would be intentional about creating community and a place of welcome for others. So may you have a blessed 2025 and all the blessings and invitations that will come throughout this year. So thank you so much, Sister Sharon, sister of St. Francis, third Order of St. Joseph.
No, that's the other way. Sister of St. Joseph.
Third Order of St. Francis. Thank you so much. There we go. I knew I would get it finally.
So thank you so much for this invitation and to talk about the fireplace.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
It's a passion and something that is alive in my heart, and I'm happy to share it.
Praise God.
So.
Thefireplacecommunity.org. Check it out.
Yeah.